So for the purpose of today, what I'm going to do is go through these things. I'm going to go through the equipment and software that I use. I'm then going to look at the formats of the films that I create. And this is very much in the sense that I create a film that is either used on YouTube or on Zoom services, and actually used in services in churches as well, to help them. Editing tips. So just a couple of editing tips to help us work through that. And then what I've learned through the process of not doing anything like this at all in February to actually delivering these weekly in some of the churches. First thing to say is I am not an expert film editor at all. Okay, I am just someone who picked up a phone and started filming. There are plenty of people in the district, around the circuit, and probably here amongst us now that are really, really good and proficient at doing this. Okay, so I'm just sharing what I've learned and the resources. So the setup, I thought I'd show you this picture first. This is my setup that I use for the craft videos at home. I haven't got an office. I haven't got more than one room in the house. So I literally use a corner of the room. The reason I showed you that is because actually it's to show you that anyone can do this. Anyone can do this. So the equipment that I use is a mobile phone. I haven't got a special camera, haven't brought a special camera. I've just literally used the film setting on my mobile phone. Most modern mobiles have got really good quality with filming. I use a tripod now. Never used to use one, but I use one now with a phone adapter. It's really important. If you're going to get a tripod, get one with a phone adapter. You're probably looking at £20 plus for one of those, but they are well worth it. A black sheet, because if you saw me when I was just here, the black sheet in that picture is actually a cat post. That cat post becomes a prop stand. When I started filming initially, I never used to put a sheet on it, and everyone was going, oh, you have cats. Whereas now I've got the black sheet and I use that for different props when I'm filming. And previous crafts go on there as well. You'll see there's a footprint there as one of the crafts I did previously. It's good to have previous crafts on because it's people then can see, oh yes, I remember doing that. I put the notes on the tripod so that it looks like you're looking at the camera all the time. You don't need to remember everything you're going to say or do. If you've got your notes there, it just makes it a lot easier if you lose track. And more recently, because the weather turned bad and because I couldn't get outside as much, I brought a green screen. So if I needed to, I could image myself as being outside when I wasn't. Although I haven't needed to do that yet, I have a green screen in case I do. So this is the way it looked when I first started doing them. As you can see, the cat post is there with lots of different crafts on. Be aware if and when you start doing these films, or if you want to, of what you have behind you and what your picture frame looks like. I'm going to go back one slide. As you can see there, it's a bit chaotic with all the different things there. But when you see the filming, it is a lot less in the picture. And on occasions, I've taken down the picture frame that's behind me as well, just to keep it a bit clearer. So there you go. There's a more recent one where I've had less in the background because it focuses on more of what you want. The things on the stand, I try and relate to the story that we're thinking about. This was a story about Advent, the week that I was thinking about an Advent theme. So I'd have different things about Advent in there to help draw in and relate to what was going on. Personally, as Tiz says, in mentioned, I like going out and about. So I always film with different locations. So I'll always break out the film in two locations. I filmed sitting in a car, walking the streets, on a beach, in a field, walking through some woods, depending on what you're allowed to do or not allowed to do it in that period of time. That was great in the summer. And when it comes to what I've learned, I'll tell you a bit about that later on. But the idea of having two locations or doing two things, it helps keep people focused. So you may do 2 minutes out and about talking about the theme to bring people into it. And it also helps people think about when they're out and about, thinking about that theme too. So this week is John the Baptist and Jesus being baptized. So I filmed that down on Western Shore and talked about baptism there and fresh starts and things. So hopefully when people are out and about walking along a beach, they'll be thinking, oh yeah, I remember when Sam was there doing this video, or it helps them think more about the craft. So we're going to get on to the craft bit. Blue Peter. Now, I'm pretty sure, looking at the demographic of people we've got here, most of you would have experienced Blue Peter at some point in your life. The crafts I do are very much Blue Peter style. The only difference is I don't just go, here's one I made earlier and that's it. I go, here's one I made earlier, but then every step I show, but I don't actually do it now. I used to do every step and film me doing every step, but to be fair, that can be a bit monotonous watching me cut things out and things like that. So I will do them in stages. The reason being is, one, it gives people opportunity to see how everything is done, but also to show that it can be done. So I remind people to pause the film. If there's a template I'm using, I need to make sure that it's something that people can do at home. So I will show it to the screen and I'll say, why don't you pause the film now so you can copy what that is before moving on. So I do encourage them to pause the film a lot, because time restrictions say that one of these talks shouldn't last for more than about 6 minutes maximum. So you're talking 5-6 minutes. So you try and get a lot in. The other thing is keep it simple, is to remember that if this is going out on film, it probably means that people are watching it in their homes, which means you need to think about, what do people have in their homes? Being a youth and children's worker, I've got loads of crafty bits and pieces in tubs dotted around the house. But actually, if I use those, would the people that are going to be watching have that equipment too? So I need to make sure or think about that aspect. It may be that you're in a COVID situation where you can deliver craft bags out, and that's fantastic if you can do that, but still bear in mind those that may tune in and may watch that don't have access to those bags. So it's very much the Blue Peter style. Here's one I've done, and you keep showing people and you journey with them as they make that craft. So now on to the software I use, because people then go, what do you use? How do you use it? You must know a little bit about it. To be honest with you, my film editing skills are reasonably basic. So I needed to start with a program that was really, really easy to use. And I use HD Movie Maker Pro. It's basically the more professional version of the free Movie Maker program. I'd advise you, if you haven't done this before and you want to try, download the free version first, give that a go, and then all the pro version does is enable you to record in HD and 4K, but also gives you a few more transitions. But at least it will enable you to have a go at using it first. Here's what it looks like. As you can see, that's not an overly complicated screen. At the bottom, on the bottom, you see the word add clip. You would just literally drop your video files into there. Arrange clips helps if you want to drop a lot of clips in at once and want to move them around once they're in there. That will enable you to do that. You can add backing tracks. So you can put a photograph on screen, add some music. When I've told stories for assemblies, I've used the free Bible images pictures and then narrated the story behind it. So you can add sounds. There are different transitions and transformations. So you can get more technical. YouTube have some wonderful videos on how to use this program, because people like me needed to find out how to use it and to look up, oh my word, what am I going to do now? But if you Google YouTube, they will help you with that. So that's the software. You can of course go slightly more technical and use programs like Power Director or Movie Serif. They're really good and they can make some really, really good films, but you have to have slightly more technical knowledge in how to use them, because it's not as easily set up as this one. So, film editing tips. Imagination. The reason I say imagination is because when I make the films, I imagine that I'm in front of a whole group of people that are absolutely enjoying every moment of what you're doing when you do it, which can be quite hard when you're just looking at a camera trying to be engaging with it. Whereas if you can imagine, you've got those families doing these crafts, and I always say adults do, you know, I always encourage the whole family to do it together. If you imagine they're there right in front of you, it kind of helps you smile a little bit when you're doing it, rather than looking at that screen thinking this is the 10th time I filmed this bit and I still haven't got it right. So there is that imagination part. Then there's the gaps. Keep a gap in different bits, because the gaps enable you to edit. If you don't have the gaps, it becomes very difficult to edit anything or cut bits out, because you may get carried away. I tend to talk rather a lot and start to enjoy myself. So I might find my 5-minute clip actually starts like a 20-minute video, and I think, oh no. So you need to cut it down and edit it. So having gaps in helps. I've got breath there because we make mistakes. Someone said, well, how do you do these? They can't take that long. They take a while because we make mistakes. As I mentioned, I have cats. Cats walk across the screen, or my daughter might come down from her homeschooling and say something. I'm going, no. So when that happens, just take a breath, backtrack a little bit and start again, rather than starting the whole thing again, because that breath will be the bit that you can help with the edit. And then transitions. Think about putting a transition in between going from one place to another, or one point from another, but don't make them too fancy, and keep them similar. So use the same transition throughout, because otherwise people start to guess, oh, what transition is this going to be, or how does it work? So I just use a nice little wave that takes me from one place to another. So those are just a few tips to help us think about how to do this. So what have I learned? A huge amount. The first thing I learned is it takes time to film and edit. I'm going to be honest, a 5-minute clip can take a long time. I was out yesterday filming for this Sunday, doing the out and about bit, which works out about 1 minute of film that's going to be seen, but it's probably took me about 20 to 30 minutes to actually film that 1 minute out on location to try and get a good part, because nowadays we have the light is not there anymore. I used to go out at 5:30, 6 in the morning when it was daylight in the summer, because I knew no one was around, whereas in the winter you can't do that. So I was out yesterday afternoon recording, and then someone would walk past and say something, or you would get dogs barking, or you get some workmen in the background, and you want to try and make it the best that you can. Although people, you know, will understand, it is good to think about that. And it takes time to edit. It does take time to edit. Don't compare, but learn from others. I've already mentioned that there are plenty of people out there that are really, really, really good at creating intergenerational talks and craft videos. In fact, there's somebody that does them in St Andrews and Romsey, that both of them are exceptionally good at it. One of them is really good at making it look like it was an art attack program. Another one is a school teacher who's really good at engaging in different ways and using things around the house to engage in the stories. So rather than compare, saying, oh, mine aren't like that at all, is actually learn from what they do. What can I do with my videos that will help me become better at them? What can I learn from others, rather than comparing ourselves? Because we're all on a journey, we're all learning through it. If you're going to go outside, look up the weather forecast. The reason I say that is these videos that are created are normally time limited. So you're creating something for a service, which means it needs to be done by a certain time. If it's for a YouTube service, it normally needs to be done a few days before the Sunday. So you've only got a few windows within to do that. So be aware of the weather forecasts. You don't want to be out there in the pouring rain, unless that's what you need to be out there in the pouring rain. And I've done one of those and soon realized that the rain sounds really heavy when you're filming yourself on a phone. So do be aware of that. And then think about your surroundings and the time of day. I've already mentioned that. Who's going to be out and about, where you are, what's it going to look like, and what's it going to sound like? Because honestly, sometimes you might think that's a really quiet sound, but when you play it back with your headphones on, you think, my word, that was really loud. and you have to go and refilm it. So do think about the surroundings and times of day you do things, and allow time to refilm. If the worst comes to the worst, one of the biggest advantages of doing this is you can refilm it. You can do it again. Unlike doing an address in a service that's live, when you get one shot at it, you can actually refilm this. And it's good to do that. You don't have to do it in one take. So let me stop sharing that. So you don't have to do it in one take. All my advice for everyone is give it a go. If you've got a phone, you can start. If you've got a phone, you can start. And honestly, I think if you thought about it and it's coming from your heart and you pray about the content that you want to do, then it'll work.